welcome to Season 3 of RecLess, the podcast making you smarter and more knowledgeable about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country who are joined by a surprise guest each episode. We're glad you're here. We hope you enjoy the ride. This is RecLess.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to RecLess. This is our 15th episode of Season 3 on our little journey to inform any of our listeners.
Podcast history.
Yes, that's right. Well, there is going to be podcast history today, this, at least on our show. It's definitely a first. What were you referring to?
Oh, I was just saying we're going to become the greatest podcasters of all time. I thought that's what you were leading up to.
Okay. Yeah. No, I guess.
Podcast Hall of Fame?
I was thinking more today than future. I don't want to.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, welcome. And, I'm here today with my co-host, as always, Shane Mize and Jay Tryon. How you guys doing today?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here.
Almost slipped up on Jay's name. There's a bit
Wouldn't be
of
the first time.
Tryon.
And it probably wouldn't be the last.
I'm good.
Awesome.
History making today. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, it's a first for sure. So I'm excited.
Isn't every guest
excited.
a first? This is a different type of first. Have we
There's
had a
all
guest on
types of
twice?
firsts.
I mean, he's got a point.
Oh boy, this is definitely not the first time we've had random and shenanigan conversation that is not relevant to the actual episode. So we're gonna move along. As I mentioned, pretty excited. And I'm gonna keep it, I guess, light with the initial question conversation. It's more or less about you both, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be personal; it could be professional, but it's not necessarily work related, right? So I'm going to talk about connections. So making connections, we talk a little bit about that here with various guests, with each other. We have the YPN family. And I would say from anybody who's listened to this and my conversations with the two of you that we all agree that having those strong connections is really, food for the soul, whether it's keeping yourself sane at a professional level or just taking yourself outside of the profession and getting personal with individuals that you've made connections with. And so the question I have for you is just kind of a fun one. Do you have an individual or individuals, I'm sure you do, let's just say one for the purpose of the conversation, who does not have to be on a professional, it could be a friend, family member, who you're not necessarily that close to proximity location-wise where you would see them on a regular basis. You maybe don't even talk to them on the phone every week or every month. But when you see something or experience something, you send them a text because of a connection that the two of you had or have. So I just, it was a fun question or a fun conversation I had with our guest, and I'll go and give you some time to think about it. When I think about that and just kind of having those special connections and individuals that bring me back or some commonalities. A good friend of mine named Justin Benjamin, he lives in Maryland now, but we grew up together here. So we don't see each other that often. He started his family. They moved down there to Baltimore. We had experienced so much together and, had a lot of, we would go and visit him in Baltimore. But obviously, before I had the family, we would go 2 or 3 times a year and just a lot of experiences. So for us, it's, if we're ever having, something where it's food that we would obviously enjoy a lot of meals together. So chicken wings, or for everybody out there who may not know of this, garbage plates. Garbage plates is a big thing. We would go and grab garbage plates probably once a week when we both lived over here. And so if one of us is having a garbage plate on a random whatever day, snap that picture, send it over. If we had a big bond with sports, right? So we played baseball together and other sports. So if we're ever at a stadium, snap a picture with the kids, send a picture over his way, a concert, maybe a band that we both experienced years ago and we're at a concert. So just kind of that fun kind of connection where we don't really talk on the phone that often, but it's what keeps us connected. And it really is, it kind of strengthens that bond, and it's a fun way for us to keep in touch.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that in several capacities, in some of which they are shared amongst past guests that we've had. and others that, are not working in our industry that have nothing to do with Park and Rec, but just things that, whether it's food related or music related or sports related, just to highlight a couple that have been guests, like Sarah Sandquist and I talk music quite often. She has a similar interest and passion for music. I know that we've talked a little bit about concerts. I'm a huge concert guy, and where she has really been able to make me jealous is the all-time concert venue, or one of, is called the Gorge. It's in the state of Washington. And when she lived there, she used to go there all the time. Well, now that she doesn't live there, she still goes back because Dave Matthews Band plays there every year, Labor Day weekend. And she goes regularly, and I'm always jealous of that because it's like the ultimate experience to go to a show there. So that's something that just whenever I hear of a certain show or a concert or a band, I think of her or some other people as well.
You're going to relate to our guest pretty well today. I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Go ahead, Shane.
I think it's context based, right? Like, I got a buddy, Mookie, Brad Blaylock. He's a coach down here in Texas. We went to college together, and we would skip every year and go to the opening day game for the Rangers. And y'all know I'm not a huge baseball fan, but baseball is much better in person than it is on TV. Like if I'm going to do baseball, I'm not going to watch it for 3 hours on TV, but I'll sit there in person and drink a beer, have a hot dog, enjoy the whole experience of baseball, which is where I think the magic of baseball is sometimes is, and Dan Mason talked about that. It's being there live and just experiencing all the inning shifts and everything they do between, innings and everything else. And so Mookie will just, we don't talk at all except for like opening day every year where he just, for 25 years of college or post-college, just, hey, happening opening day, like we don't send Christmas cards. We don't go to each other's, weddings or anything else, like just happy opening day. Same thing, Michael Bradley, who I think we all know. Michael Bradley and I are both cigar smokers. And if Michael Bradley on a Friday or Saturday night grabs a finger or two of whiskey and a cigar and is sitting down somewhere, he'll text it to me, and I try to do the same thing. If I am, I not that this is healthy, but I usually smoke cigars in the morning when I'm working out. And so, which I know is crazy with the monster, but, I really like to tax the heart. I really do. But, so that's when, if he sends something to me, but like, I know Michael is chilling when Michael sends me a text, and it's not about if he's had a good or bad week. It's not about this really cool thing his wife or his kids have done. It's just him. It's his hand with a cigar. You don't even see anything else. You know that he's just having a moment. And in that moment, he's thinking, this cigar is good. I wish Shane could experience as well. So I'm going to send it to him. And that's really cool. Those little moments are awesome. And so, yeah, I think of that. I have sports ones. Me and Michael Biedenstein, who came and visited me yesterday, got to meet his girlfriend. We gave him some shirts, and we saw the Rec Center site. Cool. Me and him talk soccer. He always gives me shit when Tottenham loses to Chelsea, which is every damn time they play. So yeah, I think those are the things that I really enjoy in life. There are those moments where there's not a lot of maintenance to it. It's just contextual.
Yeah, shout out to Michael, my fellow Chelsea brother, because I did see that they beat Tottenham. What was it, 2-0 last week or something like that?
Tottenham went up 2-0. They ended up losing 4-3. 4-3.
Well,
yeah.
Either way, Chelsea came out on top, as you mentioned. What I really love about the stories you shared is that you can make a connection with someone through conversation, and you might meet them. It could be, like you said, Shane, contextual, or Jay, through work. You might meet them once or twice. And the beauty of social media and technology should be the way that we're able to connect without even necessarily using words, and there's these TikTok trends out there. Yes, Shane, you found out that I am a TikToker, right?
Do you know that, Jay?
Yeah. So
Tom's got TikTok.
I've got about 5 TikToks that I've made myself too. So I'm not just a viewer. I'm a content creator.
You think I was judging them harshly with the Mickey ears?
Is there a turkey call one?
So no, not yet. That's next fall. I missed that one. You gotta be on top of the trends, Jay.
He's hoping the government shuts down TikTok before he gets to his turkey call phase in life.
There is one of these trends out there, though, that is, tell me that you do blank without actually telling me. And that's what I love about what we just shared, right? You know what I mean? I'm enjoying a garbage plate, and I don't have to really say anything. I send this picture, and that's how we connect. And we did speak about, this is an aside, but Jason Olson from Oklahoma, Norman, when we went out for dinner the second night, he did ask me about a garbage plate. If anybody ever wants to talk or comment about the garbage plate, please don't listen to Shane. Come directly to me. I don't want his opinion, but we could talk about that another day. So, great content. A lot of what you both talked about relates to our guest, which is kind of cool and really exciting. So let's get to it.
History making guest. Thanks for not hyping this up anymore.
Well, you know what actually I thought of?
Historic.
After he said that, when he said history making and a first, and Shane was like, don't we always have first time guests? The first thing I thought of, I was like, oh, maybe we have a returning guest, because that would be the first time for that one.
Could be. Hey, one more connection to the guest from one of your accounts that you just shared. Shane just mentioned Michael Biedenstein. Michael Biedenstein is famously known for wearing very fun shirts, and one of those shirts is a Sandlot shirt. Do you both recall the one that I'm talking? It's a button-up Sandlot shirt, those kind of like printed shirts that have patterns, yep. And it's Sandlot. Really cool. Our guest's pseudonym today is You're Killing Me Smalls.
It's Michael Biedenstein. That's what you're saying.
It could be. All right, let's get into it.
No, he's flying back this morning. He had like a red eye. They're dead. I bet he's asleep right now.
I mean, he could be lying to you when he's flying back.
That's true.
He would never lie to me.
All right, our guest is a networking and connections master, from what I've learned. Quote that they love to at least shared with me and live by is connections fill my cup. Our guest is a very avid sports fan, specifically baseball, which we talked a little bit about. I can't say the team. I think that'll give it away a little bit. We had a great conversation, and before you both hopped on,
wouldn't give it away for me.
Yeah, no, I even if I said this, but we just talked about a player who just got traded 2 days after we talked from their favorite team, unfortunately.
Oh, so he's a Yankees fan.
Which means he's a Yankees fan.
Even I knew that.
Traded from, not they did. The Yankees lost Juan Soto to free agency. So,
gotcha. Damn.
All right, so
that's the only name I would have known.
Yes, we have nothing to worry about with these two when it comes to baseball, apparently. All right, our guest is a major music fan. Okay, so Jay, that's why I said you might relate. And similar to Shane Mize, is a Swiftie at heart. Mm-mm. Our guest, early in their career, fulfilled an internship with a Chamber of Commerce, fulfilling special events. So a little bit different than the typical Parks and Rec scene, but very related. Came into the NRPA scene engaging with the YPN during COVID, so back in 2020. Currently occupies a leadership position with the Leadership Development Network through NRPA. The music palette of this individual is very diverse, consuming anything from Taylor Swift to George Strait to Kings of Leon. Very interested to know if they're I've
heard of all three of those, by the way.
That's good. If a Swiftie is a name, what's Dave Matthews? Does he have a name? Because they have a huge following. Is it a Matthewsy?
Losers.
Davey? On February 6th, 2025, so a date in the future, our guests will be awarded their state association's Young Professional of the Year award. They recently completed the Working Genius Assessment and hold the Geniuses E and T. They work in a department of 4. 3 of those individuals are guys, and our guest carries the nickname Mom. Our guest is a fan of podcasts, loves podcasts.
Meredith.
Toggling between, I didn't say a host, a fan. I don't know. Meredith may not. Well, you probably know that. So a fan of podcasts, toggling between 2 primarily, at least that's what I'm told. RecLess and New Heights. So that puts us up there in pretty great company, by the way. We are basically the same as the Kelsey brothers.
Yeah.
And they are an actual fan of the show. People say that all the time. We're not ever really sure, but for this one, I'm pretty sure. Their daughter actually listens. Rooney, 6-year-old Rooney. So we want to give a shout out to Rooney.
Steelers fan, guys. Steelers fan.
I actually.
Or New York, Rooney. Rooney Mara. It drives me insane when I don't know.
I thought you were going to get there after those last few. Our guest, after 3 years serving as a recreation supervisor, is now the current deputy director of the Cottage Grove Parks and Recreation Department in Wisconsin. Our guest, please welcome Trista Taylor.
Trista Taylor. Oh, man. Oh, what's up?
Hi, guys.
So when you said that about the daughter, I was like, but I don't know her name, so I didn't want to assume that. That's awesome.
I loved the conversation trying to guess. This is
nice
great.
shirt.
Check out the shirt. So that was the first. The first is a guest wearing the RecLess shirt.
That is a first for sure. That's awesome.
So Trista, welcome. We're glad to have you. I had a great conversation. So we got to meet Trista. Trista has been kind enough to support the show, but also engage on LinkedIn, right? And so sharing some really great stories with us, one of which was really cool about her and her daughter, and we might talk about that a little later. But Trista, we had met at an RPA in Atlanta, but it was kind of brief, and there was a lot going on. And either way, we had an opportunity a couple days ago to have a good hour to chat. And I learned a lot about you, and I really enjoyed the conversation. And we talked about connections, which inspired the opening conversation. And I just wanted to talk to you and ask you, what makes making those connections fill your cup? How have they impacted your career, you personally, made you better at what you do? And maybe afterwards share that fun story you shared with me related to music.
Sure. Yeah. So, you guys are a good example of connections, right? I was on LinkedIn, and I think somebody had shared that they were a guest on your show. I had met them through YP and the LDN network. And from there, it's like you're able to reach out to people, whether it's common interest, programming questions, how to, invest in your community more. And I've been able to connect with so many professionals from my state, from all over the US. And it's so neat that it's not just a simple hello, right? Like you mentioned, your social was so great. In passing, it was like, I just wanted to say hi to you guys, say thank you for everything that you do and the guests that you've put on. But more so it can carry over to personal. Like you said, you all asking that question had somebody you thought of, right?
Yeah.
And I just love that I have people in my life, both professionally and personally, that if it's a great day or I heard a song, I shoot them a text. It doesn't have to have any context, like you said. Last night I was driving home, had a song come on, and I text Chase Ellis, who I got to meet at NRPA this couple months ago. He's from Texas, and I really loved his session, and we've been chatting ever since about imposter syndrome and daily tasks of your job. And it's been really neat to just have that group of people that whether it's good, bad, and different, that kind of understand you, and you can connect in a simple text.
That's awesome. And I know we've talked about it on the show before, and I think Tom and Shane and I are prime examples of this. Is, you can have a connection through one area, whether it's a work related or whether it's the YPN or an LDN, but like the possibilities of where that can go in the future and how that can grow. And, what may have started because of work is now like we truly call ourselves family, and I feel that way. And I love seeing and hearing about your connections you made with others in this industry, and it's going to go beyond just work. And that's like the beauty of it, because, we may hang out and not even talk about work. And even though that is like the foundation of how we met, maybe more times than not is when we do go out to eat or lunch or, hop in a group chat of some sort. It may not be work related, just because we've gotten to that point. And that's great, because then we can always fall back on work if we need to, but we don't need to in order to continue our connections.
Yeah, no, I agree. The connection piece for us is huge, and it seems like Trista's really good at it. She makes an impact, gets to know people quickly. That's a skill set. That's not something we're teaching. Not only are we not teaching it like in an RPA type program session, but I don't even know, Jay, if y'all teach that at like a supervisor management school or even like a director's management school. And I don't know if it can be taught. I think and Tom and I have talked offline that some of the stuff that we try to teach at schools, I don't know if it can be taught or not, or if we're just trying to refine it a little bit. If you got it, you got it. But I love what Trista does, where she is very connections based. What I think is unique about that is you're coming from a very small department in a very small agency, where I think Parks and Rec can be, I don't want to say marginalized, but I do want to say that it can be put in its box, and as long as it's an egg hunt or it's a summer camp, that's cool, stay in your space or whatever. And I think you have some bigger agencies that have shown that Parks and Rec can have a huge impact. when you are going to these conferences and you're meeting these people, are you able to leverage some of those connections back home at work? And if so, how?
Yeah, that was actually one of my main goals heading into NRPA this year. It was only my second time being able to attend the conference. In my previous position, just wasn't allowed in the budget. And here my boss is like, what can we do? Where can we get you? What do you want to get involved in? I'm currently going to chair our 26 state conference for WPRA. And I've been a part of the 24 conference, and I'm currently on the 25 conference. And that was my main goal, was think outside the box. I love Wisconsin. We have some amazing professionals here that do great things, but that was my opportunity to meet new people and see what other departments are doing and what are those new things and trends, and how can we bring some of that back to Wisconsin. So I've been really fortunate. Tom and I were talking the other day, talked to Nile and sent some really cool emails and made some phone calls after NRPA about possible people coming our way, to meet the people of Wisconsin.
And we talk about that some, that NRPA is more than just the sessions you attend. I don't think everyone maximizes their conference experience in that way. And maybe not everyone is hoping to get any more connections out. Maybe they just need the professional development or the CEU credit or with 6,000 people going to conference every year or more, on average, you probably have 6,000 different reasons people are going to sessions and going to the location. So I get that. But I think, even though we've talked about it some, I don't know if we've maximized it enough. Esther and Becca are my sister-in-laws. They are constantly, they're P1s. They were talking about the episode that released this morning already in a text stream. So they've already heard today's episode. But I think that even they are shocked about, one, the professional development. One is a realtor and one works for a military contractor. And there's just not a lot of military contractor conferences where you go and there's military contractors all across the country. And if there were, they're not talking about DEI and professional development or growth, And so our industry is unique in some ways. And I think they kind of live vicariously through us and through these conversations. But I don't know if we're doing a very good job as an industry teaching people how to maximize their conference experience at a state level or even a regional level, but definitely at the national level, because what Trista is doing is exactly what you should be doing, right? Like, you should definitely go get sessions. You should go get your professional development. You should get CUs if you have some sort of certification. But if you're not walking away with a handful of new contacts that you can reach out to in some ways and say, how are you doing blank? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? I just don't think you're maximizing the experience,
Yeah, there's also an intentionality behind it too, that Trista obviously is kind of touched upon. Like, you went to a session or you sought out a session. And I want to go and maybe have you offer some advice for some individuals out there. Because Shane, you had mentioned that it's not for everybody, or it's not something everybody is comfortable doing.
Mm-hmm.
And Trista, we talked the other day about what I really enjoyed was I enjoy when people have, something that makes me ask a question, right? And that's unique. What does that mean? And so on Trista's LinkedIn banner, it's a photo that's basically, it has a comfort zone, right? This area. And then off to the right, I believe there's a smaller area that says or outside of the comfort zone, I should say, right? So the comfort zone is a smaller area. Outside
He's doing a great job describing this.
It's where the magic happens, right? Mm-hmm. So outside of your comfort zone, outside of your box, right? And this is your second conference. What motivated you to maybe get outside of that zone, or how would you offer advice to individuals who that may be their comfort zone, to just kind of go to a session, sit back, listen, take it in, but maybe want to take the next step, introduce themselves to the individual, and I think even from the podcast, you had told me that at our meetup, you had turned around and then there was Nathan Fort and maybe Hashim Taylor, Is that right? Okay. And so you had made those connections. What kind of advice would you have to someone who's maybe, I don't know, introverted or not necessarily inclined to do that?
Yeah, I think I still have a tiny space of introvert in me. Like, I always thought I was, but the more I've grown, and especially in this profession, you have to be around the community, you have to talk to people. I'm kind of if you don't do it, you're never going to know. If you do it, if it goes bad, then you know. Kind of working through that. Like we talked, I have a mentor that just kind of, if I'm never sure of myself, she's like, well, if not now, when? So, first year NRPA was, it was kind of railroaded. I was like, where do I go? What sessions do I go? How do I navigate this? So this year I was like intentional about the sessions, kind of what is outside of my job description, what will be some that really speak to me. And I knew I was chairing conference next year for Wisconsin. So I was like, what are some bigger things, that we in the state might not be hitting on? And I'd listen, like you said, took some notes, and I was like, well, let's wait. Maybe if I introduce myself and I say hi and I ask a question, maybe I'll get some more answers, or that'll help me figure out a problem. So I did. I stayed after Chase Ellis and Angela's session. It was a session on connection, and he stood up there and he's like, does anybody ever feel like you're faking it till you make it? And it just, you have those moments of like, you're doing a good job and you know what you're doing, but sometimes, even though you might not know the answer, you still have to show up. You still have to go and grind through the process. So I introduced myself, explained where I kind of was at, and just how much I loved their honesty and openness about their trials and their professional career. And now, I have some connections, possible speakers for association. And like I said, a text that makes you smile and just feel connected in a way every once in a while.
Yeah, Trista sent me a follow-up email 2 days ago, and at the very bottom of it, it was really crazy. So I had a busy day. At the very bottom, she included a quote, and it was, "Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game." And that is a famous quote from Babe Ruth. And when I read it, I was like, wow, this is just crazy. And I looked to my right, and my wife, I had found that quote years ago. My wife had painted me a canvas with that exact quote and a baseball in the background. And that relates a lot to what you were just saying. I think that is what people tend to do. There's a little bit of a fear and they don't want to jump in. But as the old baseball adage goes, there's there's not as much success as you would think, right? So why not just take the chance and go for it?
Well, and kind of in same context of that, when Tom was doing the introduction, he mentioned you work for a department of 4 people. And I've worked for a department of 4 as well. And you have to be outside your comfort zone because you're going to all wear many hats. So how is that kind of like correlated with going out of your comfort zone with your full-time job, knowing that in a smaller department, you're all doing different tasks that may not be tied to your direct title that you have day to day?
Before she goes, Trista's giving off Katie Keller vibes already to me too. So it's very interesting that, I think y'all remind me of each other a lot. I don't know if the two guys see it, but
you guys speak very highly of her. I take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Well, Katie's I actually, great. So not to prolong you from answering the question, but I thought of her when you were saying that about the department of 4 and she's the only female.
Yep.
Because that was our makeup for several years in Indian Trail, but she loved to kind of make her presence known as being the female in the room or in our department. And I would hope that Trista would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was a little bit more timid at the beginning. Tom and I have talked imposter syndrome. I got this job. I really pushed for it. I was an admin assistant prior in my hometown where I grew up. And this was my foot in the door, right? And I was like, well, I belong here, but then you question yourself and you've worked really hard to earn that spot. I'm actually fortunate enough because my current boss, again, he supports the involvement and the professional development. But I work with someone from my hometown that I worked with at my previous position. So we've kind of grown together, but now we're in, again, the same community working together. But it's been great because, like you said, Jay, we all help each other, right? It's if a fitness class is running late, you keep everybody busy and try to get everybody going. We're all able to say, hey, do we not have enough kids to work the diamonds? What do we need to do? I think it keeps everybody on their toes, but it also creates a very good sense of connection within our team because we are so small. We really pride ourselves on everybody knowing how we're functioning as a team. We meet on Fridays. What do the rental schedules look like? Who's renting the diamonds? But again, they call me mom, and I've learned to take that as a compliment. I think it's because I'm able to keep them all organized and safe most times in things that we do. But they support me in everything I do, and we've done this together, and we have just great success being a team, even though small and mighty, I would say.
I think it's interesting, the mom thing, and I think it absolutely is a compliment. You're starting to see more and more ladies get into coaching. And the interesting thing about that is there's a lot of guys in football and other sports that don't always have a relationship with their fathers, but almost all of them have some sort of relationship with the mother figure, whether it's a mom or an aunt or a grandmother. And so for them to call you that, first of all, I think is a great amount of respect, because I think most of us grow up with a special connection with someone that we would call mom, whoever that mom role is in their life. You're actually a mom, right? So Rooney, you are in a industry where being a parent is not the easiest thing in the world when you're talking about work-life balance. And y'all listen to the podcast, and it sounds like you take her to school, and so you carve out some time, it sounds like, no matter what, to make sure that you have some moments with your kids. What's work-life balance like in a 4-person department in an industry like ours?
Yeah, it's something that I've definitely made more of a priority, I would say, in 24. When I started in the height of COVID in 2020. So we were in Madison. I went from being farther away where we were kind of programming to coming here to complete shutdown. So I had some time to kind of just dive in. I worked and new programming and worked and just kept going. We have Rooney. We're just fortunate enough to have her. We always had plans to have a bigger family, and it just never worked out. So I really have been intentional about carving more time for her. When I go on vacation, that means I'm on vacation. She comes to community events. My husband's really supportive of it. And as she's gotten older, I'm just more open with her. Like, hey, I have to go to volleyball tonight. Mom will be home. Dad's putting you to bed. But it's definitely been a shift in focus. I was kind of more work focused when I started, but now it is a priority. And it's really important. And I love her knowing what I do. I think it's great. Like, she loves listening, not all the time, but she listens to you guys. But I want her to know what we're doing. When we have community night out, I want her to see that. I want her to know that when I'm away, I am doing something that matters, right? That I enjoy my job and that I work with great people and we do great things.
I think that legacy of service we talked about when we had the spouses episode on. I've got 4. My third born is doing an internship right now with the city of Pflugerville. He's in the IT department. And we just had our Christmas party, our citywide Christmas party. It's from 11 to 2. So I was there early and ducked out. But here I am with 45 full-time staff and a couple of part-timers there. And I'm interacting with other department heads and other city staff. And there's my son seeing that. Once again, he's seen us put on events and he's seen the Santa, parades and those types of things. But now he's getting to see what government service is like and the other side of, that legacy of service from a different perspective. And what was cool today, first of all, he's 18-year-old kid, there's 450 employees there. He's not talking to a lot of people. That's not him in general. I mean, this one's a little bit more like I hatched him. He's the least like Hannah of our 4, most introverted, most just on a routine and could hang by himself all day, but he's there. So he's nervous. He doesn't know a lot of people. He just knows the IT folks. But what was cool as a parent was multiple people came up to me and was like, I've gotten to work with Hayden, as he's been working through this GIS project, or he was been working through this Teams project. And he was like, it's a really cool kid. You did a good job. And it's like, man, that, you work 40, 50, sometimes feels like 60 or more hours a week, and you get home and you don't see him as much, and you think, man, did I put too much heart and soul into one pot, not enough into another? And then, what's cool about kids, first of all, they're resilient, like you can do a lot of things to them and they're actually going to be okay. The first time you drop one and you pick them up and they cry, but then they're not broken. You're like, oh, okay, these things are a little more resilient than I thought they were, but,
they bounce.
Yeah, they bounce back. But it's just cool to see them grow up and to be exposed to what you're doing in some ways as well. So cool to hear what you're doing with Rooney. And hopefully she continues to, whether she gets into our industry or not, she sees what that legacy of service is,
And also sees the importance of pursuing something that is meaningful to you and that you don't have to follow a traditional path of a 9 to 5 or, whatever path might have been seen by other parents. It's like, you want to pursue what is right for you and give her the empowerment to make some decisions.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about your background too, and maybe share that story for individuals who are not so sure maybe what direction they're going to go. And so you talked to me and shared that you were you have the sports background, right? So like that's what you grew up playing sports, and maybe that's where you kind of started. And then you had mentioned, and it's funny because Shane, you just talked about the internship for Hayden. You had taken an internship, which I feel is extremely unique. At least in my area, our Chamber of Commerce, they exist, but they're not maybe as powerful as what this sounds like. So you took an internship with the Chamber of Commerce to be their special events coordinator, and you were working through revenue generating projects and kind of getting out of that sports world. And then, of course, you also mentioned to me that maybe the next step was with the Madison School and Community Recreation, where you were introduced to the enrichment side of things. So tell us about that kind of transition from your comfort zone. I know we already talked about that in a different sense, but from what you were used to and what you knew to getting into the other side of it.
So I am always like the first one to say I went back to school. I had a very non-traditional route. I jumped right back in, right into college out of high school. Thought I was going to be an ag teacher. It was all going to work out. Play volleyball at college, all that kind of stuff. I lasted a semester, came back home, and started working, bartending, coaching, that kind of thing. And then I decided to go back to school as like an adult student. I was like 27 when I went back to school. So I did 2 internships actually at Waukesha and at MSCR, which is Madison School and Community Recreation. My first job after graduation happened to be at the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So I kind of had those 2 really strong rec internships. One was needed to graduate, but since I was an adult, I was like, if I don't get this experience now, I might not find that opportunity later. So being so sports oriented, then I jumped in at MSCR and I interned like enrichment. I was like, well, rec is all sports. That's what recreation is. That's kind of what my hometown was. That's what I had always known. And then it was recreation or enrichment is so much more adult trips and pottery classes and painting and craft classes. So it really made me branch out. It was a lot of planning and organizing things that I didn't have any background in. And I found like a niche in like liking that more. I like to plan and organize and do project management, which was great because then I actually worked for the Chamber of Commerce in Fort Atkinson. It's my hometown. I live 10 minutes out of there now. That's where I actually worked for Parks and Rec as well. But yeah, not recreation based. It was project management. So I ran these special events like a golf outing for the members and Rhythm on the River, which is a huge music festival down by the river, a community event, and a Buckskinner Rendezvous, which no longer exists, but it's historic in Fort Atkinson, and all these special events. So I really got to start networking early. I'm from that town. My parents own a small business. People knew who I was, but that was where I actually got to show people, how I worked and how I connected, how I networked, and kind of worked my way up. I did a Fort Half Marathon, that kind of stuff, where I worked with committees that plan these awesome events. And then that led me into the world of rec. I kind of left that when I saw the opportunity to jump in at my local Parks and Rec in my hometown.
I think we talk about the different or unique ways to be connected through Parks and Rec, and I completely screwed that up, by the way, the internship versus the first job. So not surprised, but I apologize. Either way, the chamber job, did you know that there was a Parks and Rec job, just generally that you could go into the field, or did you kind of stumble into the chamber? How did that work for you?
Yeah, I graduated and had no idea what I was going to do. It's, health, human performance, and recreation. I had taken a random class called Rec 334, and you got to plan a special event. So then when I saw that chamber job, I'm like, it's not, rec based, but that'll get me experience. And then I loved it. It was a starter job, but I was going to get married and buy a house and wanted benefits, and the next adulting steps. And in my hometown, Parks and Rec, the admin assistant was retiring after probably 20 plus years. I think they've only had a few secretaries or admin assistants. And so I thought, after asking everybody, I applied, which is so funny because I grew up in that gym. I grew up in that space. I played in all of the programming, but never thought that you could end up there. So that was a really cool moment because I worked for 2 people that used to run the youth center and used to do all of the leagues. They ended up being both of my supervisors and bosses at Fort Parks and Rec. So it was kind of a full circle moment, and that's kind of what got me into the rec world.
We don't always talk about this, and so the fact that you've done it's pretty interesting. You kind of had a life change, right? Like you said, you went to college, then you went and were bartending. You were doing some other types of jobs. You decided, I want to stop this path that I'm going, and I want to go on this other path. There's I can't think of the name of this theory, but the idea is if your life is just good enough, you might not jump off the next path. Like your boss is just good enough, and you make just enough wages, and if the thought behind this theory is if your boss was a complete asshole, you would actually just get out of the job, right? But since your boss isn't, and you get paid well, and for the most part, they give you the vacations you want. And what happens is you look up and it's 15 years later, right? And then you didn't get to go pursue the thing you wanted to pursue. And so, whether it's a moment that you're forced to make that change, whether it's a boss or the job or a kid or something, or you just finally said, I'm not doing this path anymore. I'm going to go do this path. We don't talk about that much on this podcast. What was your mindset like? What was your mindset like to get to that moment, and then for the courage to say, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to go pursue this new path? I guess you had to talk to your husband about that, and as a family decision, but what was the discussion like? What was your head space like when you were making that decision? Because at this point now, I think all of us are in something that if I just wanted to be a lawyer tomorrow, there's steps in that process. I got to go back to college. I got to go sit in front of this bar exam. I got to get someone stupid enough to hire me. Then I got to start trying to be a lawyer. Like, it's not just a snap of a finger, right? There's steps that you had to do this. So what was that like?
Yeah, like I said, I was coaching a lot at a high school level. I coached volleyball, I coached softball. I was bartending, working at a grocery store, all interacting with people all the time. Everybody, again, in my life, I have 2 younger siblings calling me mom. They're like, somehow you could get into teaching, or maybe that's something that'll lead you down a path that you'll like. So I went back to Whitewater, and I stumbled upon that class. Honestly, I kind of was like, you could get paid to do this. Like, you can plan events, you can work with people. And I was just lucky enough to tagline those internships where I was like, this is what I want to do. You don't get paid for some of those. That's just hard work that you put in. My husband and I were younger, and he's like, whatever I got to do, I'll support you. You go back to school and make this work. So again, I think my headspace was a little bit more driven because I was an adult student. I was in a classroom with 18, 19-year-olds. Yeah. I was 27.
They hated you.
Yeah.
Who's this lady studying hard, trying to get A's on the exam? Like, what's going on? Yeah, they hated you.
If you had to do any group work, the feeling had to be mutual.
Yeah, I agree. That was that rec class for sure. But that's what I think. That was my driving force. Is I'm going to get this done. And I'm going to figure out what I want to do. And like I said, those 2 internships were light bulbs for kids that aren't sure what they want to do. Like you said, for your son, Shane, getting that experience and making those connections. Because even if it didn't work out, you still have that person that was like, they were really driven. They worked really well. This other opportunity might work out for them. And I've been so fortunate to have a few mentors along the years that have just always helped me out with that. So I graduated, got married, bought a house, and was like, this is what I'm going to do. So
I'm doing a little digging right now, and I'm on your website, and I just have a question. There's 2 things that I love, like researching other departments about like key programs or ways that they, engage the community. And on your employment opportunities for recreation, the ability to hire football referees at 14 years old. Is that something that is like you guys have done several times? And how has that been successful as from just hiring random, young teens as to help lead your sports programs?
Yeah, so I'm sure with everybody with hiring right now, a kid can go to Quick Trip and make $17 an hour. So why, what's so cool about the local park and rec department? We've started to hire 14 and 15-year-olds if we have the capacity or have those mentors, returning students that might be on a 3rd or 4th year. We do limited hours. We explain to them kind of what we're looking for, and we kind of use it as like I said, a mentor option to where they can kind of see what it's like. We place them with a retired teacher. So, they'll work the field for baseball. And then we have a retired teacher that loves baseball that's totally confident in umpiring, and you put them at home plate, and it's starting to build their confidence. We've been really lucky in the 4 years I've been here. We're starting to see that return capacity of some students, where we're getting them 3 years, which is great. I'm sure you experience it all on the 3-year departments. Hiring is hard, finding kids that aren't involved in a ton of sports or other things. So we have a new HR director. We've changed up some things. We're trying to get into the schools more and let kids know that we're hiring, that they can come here, that there are opportunities. So it's getting better each year that we have to hire.
That's awesome. I love the idea. I think there's been, and I know Tom's been involved with it in some capacity as well, but there's a lot of initiatives right now to make sure that the younger generation knows of our industry, and how can we attract new students to not just get involved at a young age, but also pursue degrees, pursue work, pursue opportunities to get engaged from an employee standard, like in college, in high school, whatever. So by you offering that at 14 years old or 15 years old is tremendous. And I think we've always done it in, lifeguarding jobs or summer camp jobs, but to offer it year round doing different things is going to bring more awareness to your department and the industry as a whole, which is fantastic.
We're so bad at it too. Like hiring itself isn't hard. Hiring the right person's hard. I can go outside and scream to someone want a job, and someone will take that stupid job at the rec center, but getting the right person at the rec center is not easy, right? And it's crazy about our industry. If you do a career day and you have kids dress up, you'll have kids dress up as a judge or a doctor, and they've never even been in a hospital. They've never been in a courtroom, and they already know about this stupid profession. Meanwhile, they're literally in our courtrooms, in our hospitals. They're in our rec centers. They're on our ball fields. They're at our pools, and they don't know that we are full-time employment potentials for them. Like, it's just, we're as bad at this as any industry I've ever seen. Like, we have more exposure to these people. You can't find someone that hasn't been exposed to a park and rec something between 0 and 18 years, whether it was a ball field or a park they drove by or a facility they swam at, or they got, they visited someone's birthday party somewhere. They're exposed to something that's Parks and Rec related, that's city government related, and they don't even think it's something they can work at. It's crazy.
Maybe we're just, we're bad at obviously telling the story, but maybe we're just that good at what we do. If I think about it from the other side of it, that what do people come to our courtrooms for? What do they come to our hospitals for? What do they come to our rec centers for? To forget everything else.
Sure.
So that's what they're there doing. They're there. They're not thinking. They're not really looking at it that way. Whereas I see a police officer and I see someone in uniform and I see that's like, oh, that's
but in a courthouse, you have the Honorable Tom Venniro presiding, and there's a sign or a photo, and the same thing at Dr. J. Tryon will see you now. What we don't do is
correct.
illuminate and highlight the people running those rec centers.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're in the background and you don't see them. But like, if we had a big ass photo of Trista's face as the rec center manager of that facility, maybe people would be like, oh, I've seen her at the grocery store. I didn't realize that someone runs this. We don't do a good job of that,
We're a humble people, and I talk like we're a tribe of some sort, but we are. It's a very humble profession, and Trista, that actually segues into a topic that we spoke about the other day. And we were talking imposter syndrome, and we talked a little bit about that, but you also talked about how it's a challenge for you to celebrate yourself. Give yourself maybe the due credit that you deserve, right? And maybe you question a little bit about your what you're doing, but with your team, you have no problem going and celebrating them. And that's equally or maybe as important. So that's another way that we could tell our story. And I know Johnny O, he did a great job, and we don't talk about it enough, I feel like, on this podcast. So maybe talk to that. We didn't talk about the next step. How do you celebrate your team so that your community knows that they're there?
We, of course, I'm not a social media person by trade. I probably like it a little bit more than Shane does. But we have a communication director here for the village and Parks and Rec. But, when we do great things, it's posting and sharing, but also, at the end of the summer, having the cookout with the staff and just supporting each other, whether it's I need time off, or I want to go to this training, or can you connect me with this person? We've done a great job. And again, maybe it's because we're a smaller team. Our boss is very supportive and what do you want to get involved in? How do you want to do it? We've been working with our police department and our chamber the past couple years here, and we started a community night out event, which has been great because it's a great way for us to highlight our department as well as the police department and the chamber. And like you said, that's where everybody's like, oh, they do work there. That's what they do. It's a little opportunity. But I just overall, we have a great little small niche of a team, and it's the text messages, it's the small gifts, it's the why don't you leave early, but just knowing that we're in their corner, we're cheering them on. Our program coordinator, he's been here a couple of years. I'm really into the professional development opportunities. Again, it may not be something you think you want to know about or learn about, but just pushing people to maybe step outside their comfort zone and take those trainings, go meet those people, and see what happens.
Another good question for a smaller department, because I could really relate to this. You've gone to 2 NRPA conferences. So I guess the first question is, does your department support that?
Yep, they do. Yep, like our budget. Yep, our budget. I mean, we have a budget for parks. So we have our 2 park staff and then our 2 rec staff. It's kind of easier for us to break that down that way. But I've applied for grants through our state association to attend some additional trainings if we know that one person might want to go to something. I was fortunate enough this year that WPRA, our state association, actually paid for me to attend NRPA.
Nice.
Just knowing that I'll chair next year's conference, and that's something that they want to continue to do as an added bonus of, volunteering your time and showcasing the associations.
Some small departments, it's very hard to get someone to the national conference. And so, it might start at the top. It might start just advocating or doing what you're doing and chairing a conference locally that brings light to it. So how does a small department like yours, if, again, you were funded to go this year, but how would they afford to send someone to a national conference?
Yep. So we have a small training budget. And like I said, with the 4 of us, we've talked about going last year. 3 of us went out of the 4. Wow. And we've just talked about in future years, we'll cover our local trainings, our state conference and our few things, but then we'll rotate. It might only be 1 or 2 of us going in the future, but we've been very fortunate where my boss and our village, they support the professional development in that training aspect, which I know a lot of departments are unable to do so.
Some people who don't get a chance to do the professional development that you have, or all of us have on this call, right, at a national level, supplement with webinars, but really podcasts in some ways, and they try to glean what they can from those things. Tom said that you were a huge podcast person when he was doing the intros. What is it about podcasts that you find so valuable?
I commute, so I have like a 30-minute commute, and I think it's a great time to...
Better than Dave Matthews, right? Is that what you're saying?
I like Dave Matthews. It's just it's a way to give myself learning, right? Like you said, some days you can walk into the office and your day is blown up from the first phone call. So if I'm taking that 30 minutes on the way home and to work, I'm investing in myself. And everybody said, just to be a lifelong learner, right? There's things I've heard on podcasts that could be a simple program idea, or even if it's a self-care idea, you're like, well, why didn't I think of that? So I like taking the opportunity. It calms me, at the end of the day, especially if you've had an intense day. I like the variety of it, and it's easy because I'm driving, it's safe. I'm not on my phone. I'm listening. It's been great. For this on Fridays, I come in. If my mornings are a little quiet, I get to plug in and listen to you guys. It's just a great educational source, but an easy thing that I can do without necessarily traveling or taking time away from work.
I think this is the episode this Friday that I called y'all fuckers. So hopefully she is plugging her headphones in.
I was just about to say, you said a-hole a few while, and I purposely mentioned 6-year-old Rooney in the intro.
Me and Trista have talked about this, and Rooney is immune to curse words.
He knows what curse words are.
She's a good Midwestern girl. It doesn't affect her sensibilities, Tom.
It's not about her sensibilities. It's about maybe, your filter when a 6. All right. So let me.
We're rated E.
Parent of the year.
or explicit or whatever.
This one's definitely an E. And you mentioned that you like New Heights. And so basically New Heights and RecLess are the same thing as I mentioned. So my first question is Jason Kelce or Shane Mize?
Ooh.
I mean,
I picked Shane.
I know who my wife would choose. She loves Jason Kelce.
It's just a neat way, like I said, you can just unplug, right? They make you laugh. It's just this, Jason seems like such a charismatic, down-to-earth guy. And now since retirement, listening to him talk about stuff, and I mean, especially on, football now, seeing him broadcast, and he's himself 100%, and he doesn't apologize for it, which I'm getting to as I've gotten older, more comfortable as myself. But when you see people that just, hey, this is me, I love it. And I could listen.
Tom doesn't like that. Tom doesn't like doing that in a room with me.
I asked you that question in obviously to get a laugh, but also in sincerity that what you just described is Shane Mize. That is, it does not matter the scenario and the setting, and sounds like Shane. And it's not just the beard. That's not the only.
We both played center too, although he played it at a much higher level than I did. Speaking of podcasts, I'm not much of a music person. They always laugh at me because I don't know the difference between Adele and Taylor Swift, but I do know that Kylie Kelce just started podcasting, Jason's wife, and she has already shot past Joe Rogan.
Crazy.
Have you listened to any of her episodes yet?
I listened last week, which was her first episode, and I did not get a chance to listen this week yet. But again, she's pretty much herself, and she doesn't care if you like her or not, which is, again, they don't hold a profession like us. They can do it. But I think that's what I like about it, right, is they've found a space to just be themselves.
I love female voices in that space, too, because when you look at the top, it's like, Rogan and Sean Ryan and all these other male-oriented, really male-centric in some ways.
And RecLess?
And then RecLess were in the top, yeah. And then Hannah, my wife, loves Julia Dreyfus's podcast, and I don't know if the guys know about her podcast, but she brings on women, only women, and wants to learn from women. I think they're older women as well, like something about the idea is tell me what you know or tell me what you've learned or about their time in leadership or the industry or whatever. And so hers is very female oriented as well. So I love that it's expanding and you're starting to see other voices in these spaces.
What I really appreciate about is it Kylie?
Kylie, yeah.
Kylie.
When I first started, so I'm not an avid New Heights listener, but it comes in my TikTok feed, Shane. That's when the algorithms come and they know what you like. And so a lot of New Heights and a lot of the Gronk Edelman podcasts come up in mine, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome too. So she would originally come onto the show and be very sheepish.
Hesitant, yeah.
Yes, like, no, get me out of here. And so I think that's an amazing story in itself, how she's broken out of her shell. And, we talked a little bit about that earlier, but it's amazing. These individuals, I saw the two of them singing in like harmony at a song the other day. And I was like, what the heck?
She's reluctantly.
I've got no talents.
She's very talented. She's athletic. She can sing.
Yeah.
She's reluctantly influential. Like she didn't start out wanting to do any of this stuff. Just wanted to be married to Jason Kelce, right? And at one time, she was just married to an offensive lineman, which isn't all that glamorous. For years, she was married to an offensive lineman that was beloved in Philly, but no one else knew much of him. But yeah, she's become very influential. I don't think Jay's going to talk about podcasts with this question, though. Jay doesn't even know we're on a podcast. He thinks this is a Zoom.
What is your favorite Dave Matthews question?
Technically, this is a Zoom.
Yeah, see? He doesn't know anything else we do with it.
I could admit I've never listened to the New Heights podcast. So
not even a clip.
If they had Josh Allen on, would you? Not even.
You'd have to listen if Josh.
I like the Ryan Fitzpatrick podcast with the what's his name, the other host from Thursday Night Football. Those guys are great.
You don't even know who he is. How great are they?
I don't even know. Yeah,
you know who he is.
Is it the guy that ran out of the end zone, Orlowski?
No, not that. He's a host with Thursday Night Football.
I don't watch football.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Other than Seattle. I don't know.
And I just can't think of his name right now, but he is one of the other hosts. They have a podcast together, and I do like them. But I love Fitzpatrick. He's incredible.
Another one for baseball is Digging Deep podcast. That's got a couple of good baseball guys on it.
I couldn't even imagine listening to somebody talk about baseball. I can kill myself.
Oh my God. Another good message for our young listeners.
So what's your rapid fire, Jay?
So hold on, Andrew Whitworth. I just looked it up. I had to figure the name.
Okay.
But you would know who that is if you see
Lineman. Yeah. I know he is.
One of the Thursday night hosts.
Yep.
Rams.
So, I want to talk about music because you guys make fun of me. But if Trista's a big music fan, what has been your favorite concert you've ever been to, and what is the next concert you're planning to go to?
So I saw Pink at the Pfizer Forum, the new Milwaukee Stadium. I saw her a couple years ago when it opened, and she's a phenomenal entertainer. I mean, strung up on the ceiling, flipping around, singing. Plus, she, girl power all the way. She's been a great person to see in concert. I did mention George Strait before. I'm a huge fan of George Strait. My dad and I kind of connect on that. But actually, looking forward to next summer. We've talked about there's a big music festival, again, kind of country. But I don't have one in line. I just saw somebody at the Rave. It's a small concert venue in Madison. It's just a great little area to see. I wish I could have said I went and saw Taylor Swift, but just didn't have that in my budget.
So Beatenstein was down because of the Ben Folds Paper Airplane tour. And I was telling one of my staff, I was like, yeah, Mikey's coming by to see us. He was at the Ben Folds concert. And Jonathan said, what's Ben Folds? What's Ben Folds? And I was like, it's like, damn. We're all getting old. I was like, it's normally reversed. Jonathan Hansen will mention a name, one of my staff, that I've never heard of these people, and then I was like, oh, that's what that feels like, I guess.
That's funny.
Yeah. Good friend of mine, his wife they were debating on the Taylor Swift concert in Toronto, and he was telling me about the ticket price, and it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $1,500. I was like, oh my. I mean, it's like a Super Bowl ticket.
So insane.
It's pretty intense, and so I even heard Pink, like that's a pretty popular concert too. I've known some people that have gone to some Pink concerts as well. My next question for you, and I feel like I'm hoping that you I'm not putting you on the spot here, but the only time I think we've ever asked this was to Rosalind Johnson, and when you shared with me the Babe Ruth quote, I feel like, man, you've got to have some more up your sleeve. What are some quotes or words that you live by?
I have a bunch on my wall in back of me. It's attract what you expect, reflect what you desire, become what you respect, and mirror what you admire. I really like the mirror what you admire. Like we've talked about, I'm lucky enough to have some mentors, and if one day I can look back and be like, I did okay because of them. They showed me the way. That's one of the ones I like. But my simple one you can't see, Leslie's in the background, is be the Leslie Knope of whatever you do.
Oh yeah, that's good.
I love it.
Speaking of Leslie Knope,
Parks and Rec character.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's funny you say that. Has any of you ever heard of F3?
No. The hell are you talking about?
So I don't want to go off on this tangent because it's not the right time or place for it. But there is a workout group that I'm a part of called F3. And it's not a North Carolina thing. Like it's all over the country. But
the stand for 3 Fs? F words are some of my favorite words. You want me to guess what the Fs are?
But the whole point of why I'm saying what I'm about to say, or why I'm getting down the story, is the first time you ever go to an F3 name, you get a nickname. Okay?
Oh,
so like
boy.
every other time
Leslie?
you go, what?
Leslie.
Is yours Leslie?
Mine is Swanson.
Swanson.
Oh, because I found out you heard Parks and Rec.
Because they know, like, you have to tell them a couple of things about yourself, and then they come up with a name for you. Like, I didn't pick the name, but because they know my job, they're like, your name is Swanson. So, yes, I may not watch the show, but I know who they are.
I have his pyramid in the Words of Wisdom. Yep, in my office.
I love that. Well, we've talked about a mentor. We've talked about Parks and Rec characters. I think my question is just going to be a statement. Derek Donlevy.
Derek.
How awesome. He's a great dude, isn't he?
He's a great dude. He was somebody that I reached out to when I wasn't sure about where to get involved and how to. And he's like, here are your opportunities. I'll support you in any way you can. And when we went to NRPA, he was like, if you need help meeting the guys, let me know. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go to the social and I'm gonna meet. meet you guys. And then he always messages me when I share your stuff on LinkedIn. He's like, I hope they're paying you for all the promo that you give them. No, he's a great supporter. He's such an advocate for the association, and he's a great professional in the state. And I really enjoyed getting to know him the last couple of years.
Derek is in our group, obviously our little YPN fan group, and he's like an assassin. Like, you don't hear from him for months, and he pops out and he'll just post a post or two, and it's like, oh, that's great. You know, it's proof of life. Derek has responded or liked something or whatever. But he is a great dude. Love that guy.
I have a very random question, and it's a simple yes or no answer, but have you ever been to the Jelly Belly factory in Wisconsin?
No.
Okay. I've been to Wisconsin once, and I went and took a tour of the Jelly Belly factory.
Is that a jelly bean?
You've never heard of Jelly Bellies?
It's the jelly bean of jelly beans.
Yeah, it's the jelly. They've got a million flavors.
Only ones I do are Starburst. Is that the ones that have the nasty?
Yeah, they do
flavors.
They go a little over the top.
Yeah. It's like fart. You know, like you can eat a fart jelly bean. Come on, what are we doing? I just do the Starburst ones if I'm going to do a jelly bean.
I'm going to buy you some fart jelly beans and sneak them in your lunch somewhere.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Oh, man.
Well, you should take your daughter to the Jelly Belly factory and get a tour of it. And you can buy, they're called belly flops. It's the jelly beans that aren't like printed with like their logo the right way. And they sell them for like pennies. Like it's awesome.
Yeah. Maybe you could get some fart ones and send them to Shane.
That's what I'll do.
Get you a buck worth of fart ones.
I think I've seen that game. It's like Russian roulette with jelly beans. You're right. There's like booger and fart and
those
all
people
that
are called boring. They're boring.
So I played that game before.
Oh my God.
It was, I have truly, and I'm like, I have never laughed so hard in my life.
By people's reactions?
Yes, 100%. So you're right. Like Trista's head on. Like, so it's a box of jelly beans. Half are good flavors, so like half are like watermelon and peach and strawberry, and the other half look identical. So you either get peach or you get barf, or you get lemon lime, or you get spoiled milk.
You need something else to do.
You don't know what it is until you try it. But like seeing people's reaction, because some people just immediately start gagging or maybe even throwing up or choking, and like it's hilarious. So
like real life fear factor.
It's mostly like, and I've done it with my kids and like other friends' kids. Like the kids are great because they don't like want to stop. Like they think it's funny too. So like I remember like vividly, my son ate a spoiled milk one, and but then he went in for another one. Like it's not like it doesn't end after one. So highly recommend with getting some kids together and playing that game, or just adults if you want to see Shane like puke as well. I know what I'm bringing to next conference.
I think we got a better chance of getting them to Disney than that game.
Yeah, true.
I am looking forward to that. That has been something I just can't wait to see the outcome of that.
Yeah, well, you're invited. Yeah, you're invited. You know, everybody's welcome. It's a very welcoming.
If we do our social at Disney, I'll zoom in.
Oh.
I was late to our last one. I'll be really late to this one.
You were late.
He was late. It was actually kind of frustrating, but whatever. We won't go there today. I've got one last question before we let you go.
Okay, thanks for your time.
A little bit about football. Rodgers or Favre? Just curious. Is that a giant debate ever since Rodgers left? And
I think people in Wisconsin they could argue about that. I'm going to say Favre because that was when I grew up. Like that's like good, solid Packer years.
Is your daughter named after the Rooneys, or was it something else?
So she's named after Rooney Mara. Actually, she's
who is named after the Rooney family.
Yeah, character in a movie one night. We were watching it, and my husband's like, "Who is that?" And I was like, "I don't know. Her name's Rooney Mara." He's like, "Write that down."
Awesome.
Was it the girl with the dragon tattoo?
It was. Yeah.
Seen it. Good movie.
The books are great too.
Yeah. Never seen it.
See,
I'm not a tattoo person.
I can do music and movies. These guys might watch like lame television shows, or they may watch soccer, but like movies and music are my thing.
My husband's a big movie buff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I can
unless it has Jason Bateman, Shane probably hasn't seen it.
That's true. That's true. Or Will Ferrell.
He's got a little man crush on Jason Bateman.
It's true. His new one's coming out tonight.
Yeah, it looks really good.
It does.
It looks good. I'll watch that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a type of movie though, Jay. I love movies. And not
Notebook.
Disney. I'm not talking about
Bridges of Madison County.
All right.
They're called rom-coms.
Rom-coms?
Or whatever they are. I don't know. Romantics?
We've probably lost all of our listeners at this point. I would say. But it was fun. It's been a fun conversation. Trista, thank you so much for the time and the support and joining us today. And we look forward to seeing all the great things you have to do in the future.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate the time. It was awesome.
Kristen.
Cool. See ya. Thanks for being on.
Happy holidays, guys.
See you, Rooney.
Same. Happy holidays. Yeah, bye, Rooney.
Don't curse.
Don't be like Shane.
Oh, man, you found a way. I gave kind of a disclaimer that we're going to have a 6-year-old listening to this, and you found a way to make it not appropriate for a 6-year-old.
I didn't want to not be authentically me.
You didn't want to
Rooney's heard us every episode. I didn't want her to not hear me curse just because she's wanting me to curse. Rooney's waiting for it. So I had to deliver. That was fun. Yeah. Trista's great.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun, and I had a great time. I mean, when I do the pre-guest kind of, I don't know if you guys do that or not. We don't really talk about our pre-show routine when we're hosts, but when I have that pre-guest conversation, it's usually a 15 to 25 minute conversation. This one went over an hour. I mean, we just kept talking about everything, and so she's a great conversationalist. And you talk about going to someone who is, I mean, I know I could really relate to it because I came from a small agency, and obviously the connections have meant a lot to me, but she's really been maximizing the heck out of the ability to get out there, connect with individuals, leverage it for obviously not only her job, but now the state. And so it's just I think you said it really, really well, Shane, that it's not really everybody's cup of tea, but it's something that they should definitely be thinking about.
Yeah, you can really maximize what that experience is. I mean, and she gave me Katie Keller vibes the whole episode. Like, there's a lot that just, who we love, absolutely adore Katie. So I hope she continues to. It sounds like she's extending into this industry, right? She's fixing to be recognized as the Young Professional of the Year. She's taking on the responsibility of a state conference. She's making connections with those names and people that we all have a high level of respect for. Nathan, Hashim, Chase Ellis, those types of people she's already making connections with. And those folks are that next group behind us, kind of like that new wave of people coming through. And so she's positioning herself in the right spot to allow the opportunity for her ambition to reach whatever she's wanting to in her career, which is really cool.
Yeah, and in a unique way too, right? You know what I mean? Not the, and I don't want to say this is always traditional, but not the traditional 26, 27-year-old. I got introduced to the YPN, and that's great. We love that, right? We understand and can relate to that story, but there is another side of that where you can enter at any point in your career. And you can make it happen, and like you said, maximize whatever it is that you desire. So I really admire that about her, and she's got that leadership position with the LDN too. Which is
that's right. Yeah,
only after a short period of time working with I think she's the secretary right now.
Very cool. Well, it was a great pool, man. That was a good episode.
Yeah, she's great.
All right, guys, what do we got next week?
It's our Jay.
Me.
Might be is it technically our last episode?
Last episode, then Hannah does the best of.
Okay. All right, Jay. Don't disappoint us.
Don't fuck it up, man. We've worked really hard this season to get where we're at.
Continue dropping the F-bombs.
All right, everybody. That's enough of this today. We will see you all next time on RecLess. Bye, guys.
Peace.
See you guys.